So, Tower of God Season 2 is airing. Hooray! And as that is the case, I recently decided that it would be worthwhile revisiting Season 1. It had been a while since I last watched it, and thankfully, I found that I enjoyed it just as much the second time around as I had the first. Tower of God is not perfect, but it achieves a few things that set it apart from its competitors. Chief amongst these achievements is its stellar ending, which deserves to be talked about in some detail. Today I'm going to walk through Season 1 in a little bit of detail and talk about its successes, its failures, and most importantly, its ending. So, assuming that sounds interesting to you, I hope you stick around. If not, I hope you have a nice day. For those of you who have decided to stick around, let's begin as usual with the much needed disclaimers. This video contains my personal opinion of the anime Tower of God. As that is the case, you may find that you disagree with some or all of the points that I make in this video. So if your opinion differs from mine, or if you agree with me, I would encourage you to leave a comment letting me know your thoughts and opinions. I would love to read them. This video will contain spoilers for the first season of Tower of God. If you have not yet watched the first season, I would strongly recommend that you do so before proceeding. Trust me when I say you'll want a fresh experience. Enjoy your first viewing, and then come back. The video will still be here, and it should be even more interesting after having watched the first season. With the disclaimers concluded, let's get into the review. You may be wondering why I want to talk about Tower of God. I mentioned that I wanted to discuss its ending, but that is somewhat vague. The answer to that question lies in the way Season 1 handles one of the most challenging elements of storytelling, the oh-so-elusive narrative twist. It is notoriously difficult to implement. All too often, the twist comes across as either obvious, due to being too clearly telegraphed, or nonsensical, due to an insufficient setup. Tower of God, while not at all perfect, manages to execute the narrative twist to remarkable effect, making its ending thoroughly enjoyable. I want to walk through how Tower of God manages this. Before I do, I'm going to walk through some of Tower of God's strengths and weaknesses broadly, starting with its technical aspects. Let's start with the visuals. They're good. The animation is consistently serviceable, but it is relatively simplistic. Don't expect Jujutsu Kaisen levels of animation from Tower of God. Having said that, they are not bad, and some welcome visual flair is added when needed. The world is colourful, and the illustration is very interesting and often utilises some nice art style changes. The voice acting that accompanies the well-designed characters is good, and it complements them well. There are some additional art style changes throughout the season which go along well with the voice acting to help convey some humour, which keeps the tone of the show relatively light. The music used throughout Tower of God is also very good. While the opening song is not the greatest I've ever heard, it is a strong showing. The animations that play during the opening are also worth mentioning, but I will discuss that in a little bit more detail later.
What do you desire? Honor and pride, power and influence, money and riches, revenge, or to transcend all such things?
What you desire, you will find it here. Welcome to the Tower of God. Climb the tower and everything will be yours. You can become a god. This is the story of Rachel, the girl who climbed the tower so that she could see the stars, and Bam, the boy who needed nothing but her. The Tower of God opens with this mysterious and tantalizing invitation. Accompanying this invitation is a beautiful set of images which draw the viewer into the mythology of the tower. All the while, evocative music plays that perfectly sets the tone. It's a fantastic way of describing the thematical landscape of the narrative. Everyone who wishes to climb the tower does so for some ambition, whether noble or selfish. The question is, for what do they strive? What ambition is worth sacrificing for? Can the tower truly offer all that our hearts desire? As stated in the opening, Tower of God tells the story of Rachel and Bam. At first, the story focuses primarily on Bam. One day, Rachel leaves Bam behind to enter the tower, all out of a desire to reach the top and see the stars. Devastated by this abandonment, Bam resolves to follow her, and so enters the tower in search of Rachel. Once inside, Bam encounters a series of tests, each designed to weed out the weak and determine who might be worthy of continuing to climb the tower. Along the way, Bam manages to make several friends, all of whom act as invaluable allies, aiding him in his noble pursuit, whilst also managing to place their own desires on the back burner out of love for Bam. Throughout the season, Bam grows from being rather helpless to being someone able to fight for himself and worthy of the respect of those around him. In time, Bam is reunited with Rachel and is predictably overjoyed, however she is less so, presumably because she is guilty for abandoning him, or so the story leads you to believe. Their climb then continues, however, shortly after being reunited, Rachel is gravely injured and it appears that she can no longer walk and therefore no longer climb the tower. At this point, the newly strengthened Bam decides that, out of love for Rachel and an unwavering loyalty to her, he decides that he will take her up the tower himself, Samwise Gamgee style. Bam, his allies, and the injured Rachel then begin their ascent once more. This brings us to Act 3, which culminates in a shocking twist, which is really well executed. Rachel betrays Bam, revealing that she has been using him this whole time to further her ambition of climbing the tower. In the final moments of their test, just before they succeed, right after Bam manages to fight off a terrible monster, Rachel pushes him off the platform upon which they stand, causing him to plummet into an abyss. There, she leaves him to die, as she continues her ascent, usurping Bam's allies and manipulating them into aiding her, tricking them into thinking he's died. By some miracle, Bam survives the fall, and the season ends with him determined to climb the tower once again, this time to rejoin his friends and confront Rachel.
Where's Bam?
What happened to Bam? Hey!
Rachel!
Tower of God manages to tell the tale of two heroes, one who succeeds on their journey to become a hero, and another who fails. Bam's hero myth fits the mold of the traditional hero myth quite nicely. He begins his journey as an innocent, naive, and pure-hearted boy whose only wish is to reunite with Rachel, his heart's desire and his guiding light. Despite being unfamiliar with the tower and its dangers, Bam's innate qualities, his kindness, loyalty, and quiet determination endear him to others and help him overcome challenges. As Bam ascends the tower, his heroism becomes evident not because of grand acts of strength or intelligence, but because of an unwavering faith in the people around him. He consistently puts others before himself, particularly Rachel, and this selflessness makes him the moral center of the story. His mysterious connection to Shinzu, the tower's powerful energy, also marks him as someone destined for greatness, although he is largely unaware of his potential, as are many of the allies around him. His journey is one of a hero, a character who faces trials, makes allies, and is destined to ultimately grow into a figure of legend. Rachel's hero myth. Done! This brings us to Rachel. In stark contrast to Bam's story, Rachel's journey is an inversion of the traditional hero myth. She too starts with a dream, her desire to see the stars, but unlike Bam, her path is fueled by envy and insecurity. Rachel wants to be special. She wants to be the protagonist of her own story, to not only see the stars, but to be one. However, she feels ordinary and overshadowed by those around her, a feeling that grows ever stronger after she is reunited with Bam and sees just how much he is grown and loved by everyone around him. This fundamental dissatisfaction with herself leads her toward a path of resentment and eventually makes her willing to sacrifice anything and everything in order to achieve her dreams, including the betrayal of the one person who loves her unconditionally, the one person who already considers her a star. Rachel's myth is one of a failed hero. She is given opportunities to grow, to form bonds, and to show courage, but she consistently chooses self-interest. She wants the glory of the hero's journey, but she lacks the qualities that make someone truly heroic: compassion, selflessness, and resilience, to name a few. Instead of facing her weakness, she resents those who succeed where she falters, especially Bam. Her belief that the tower rewards only the ambitious and selfish blinds her to the fact that true strength comes from something deeper than ambition. The dynamic between Bam and Rachel's myths becomes particularly powerful when their stories begin to diverge. Despite running parallel for most of the season, Bam sees Rachel as his reason for climbing the tower, believing in her unquestionably. He views her as a star, as a guiding light if you will, while Rachel sees Bam as an obstacle to her own dreams, someone who is holding her back. The tension between their myths reaches its climax in the final episode when Rachel, realizing she will never be special or chosen in the way she desires, chooses betrayal instead. Her push of Bam from the platform is not just a physical act, but the symbolic culmination of her failed hero myth. It's the moment where her jealousy and bitterness fully take control and she rejects any chance of redemption. In that moment, the very thing that Rachel aspired to be is lost. Instead of confronting her flaws and growing through them, like a hero would, Rachel opts for the easy way out, hoping that by eliminating Bam, she can finally become the hero of her own story, and not a supporting part of his. As fortune would have it, Bam survives the fall. The betrayal, while devastating, does not break him. Instead, it sets him on a new path, one where he is no longer just following Rachel, but forging his own destiny. In this sense, Rachel's attempt to shatter Bam's hero myth only strengthens it. A part of Bam has, however, died, and he has lost those innocent eyes that he had once possessed. In their place now are colder ones that know betrayal. However, he has also gained something else. Purpose. Purpose that will hopefully allow him to climb the tower, potentially in Season 2. The tragic irony of Rachel's failed hero myth is that she had everything Bam had: a desire to reach the top, allies willing to help her, and the chance to grow. But she squandered it all because she couldn't accept her own mediocrity. Bam's hero myth is about discovery, growth, and finding meaning in the journey, while Rachel's is about obsession, envy, and self-destruction. Bam becomes the true hero not by seeking greatness, but by accepting the challenges that come his way and growing through them. Rachel, in contrast, falls deeper into villainy by refusing to confront her own shortcomings and by betraying the very person who cared for her most. As I mentioned before, narrative twists are notoriously difficult to execute. Tower of God, however, succeeds with flying colours. This is for a couple of different reasons. Throughout the season, the narrative positions Rachel as the key motivation for Bam's hero myth. She is portrayed as caring, gentle, loving, and worthy of Bam's affection in a set of flashbacks throughout the first season. She is also only lightly featured, despite having such a crucial role in the story, which leads the viewer into the mistaken belief that her character exists solely to provide Bam with some motive force. When the final twist does happen, it completely upends these assumptions. Rachel, instead of being the damsel in distress, becomes the instigator of betrayal, revealing a cold and callous ambition. This subversion is what makes the twist shocking. Bam's character is crafted as the pure, selfless protagonist who is willing to do anything for Rachel. His journey is built around his love and loyalty toward her, and he and his companions are conveyed in a rather endearing manner, mostly through comedy. The twist is effective because, assuming the narrative has done a sufficient job at making the audience like Bam, the betrayal is then devastating. The story has been told through Bam's eyes, and so when Rachel betrays him, it hits hard emotionally. His arc has been leading towards reunion and triumph, and instead it ends in devastating heartbreak. While the betrayal is shocking, the series does a good job of subtly foreshadowing Rachel's true intentions throughout the first season. Small, quiet moments show Rachel's unease, guilt, and distance from Bam, but these signs are easily overlooked. There are also hints that Rachel's motivations are more self-centered than they first appear. However, over the course of the narrative, the show slowly reveals that Rachel's dream of seeing the stars is more of a consuming obsession than a noble aspiration. This gradual build-up, however, ensures that the twist doesn't feel unearned or arbitrary, whilst also maintaining its shock value, recontextualizing this entire season. Finally, the twist ending not only shifts the dynamic of the story going forward, but also reframes the entire season. So much so that the second watch is really quite worth it, which is something to commend the show for whenever we see it. Upon rewatching the show from the beginning, having seen the end, little things begin to stick out to you. In the very beginning, during that wonderful opening scene, the final words spoken, narrated by Rachel by the way, have a whole new meaning.
This is the story of Rachel, the girl who climbed the tower so she could see the stars. And Bam, the boy who needed nothing except her. This is their end, and their beginning.
The last thing that I will draw your attention to, now that you've seen the twist, is Tower of God's opening song. As far as an opening is concerned, it's pretty good. However, I've heard better. The important thing to note, however, is the imagery that plays during the opening. Lots of imagery of Bam in prison, disintegrating, losing his way, drowning in sorrow is rife throughout the whole opening. My favourite image shown is that of a glass rose shattering, or in symbolic terms, Bam's delicate but true love for Rachel shattering. If you do watch Tower of God again, just pay attention. I would wager that you could predict the entire story, including the twist, assuming you paid close enough attention just to the opening. To conclude the video, I shall simply say this. The interplay between Bam and Rachel makes the story of Tower of God very compelling, because it subverts the traditional narrative arc. It's not just about one hero's rise, but another one's fall. This is why the twist ending is so powerful, because it feels absolutely fitting, whilst also striking you as tragic and unexpected. Tower of God tells the tale of two heroes. Its genius, however, is that it tricks you into believing that it is telling the tale of only one. For this reason, I would highly recommend Tower of God. With all that said, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, could I ask you to leave a like, comment, and perhaps even subscribe? I would greatly appreciate it. If you have any anime or whatnot that you'd like me to talk about in the future, please let me know. I have a list as long as my arm, but it's always nice to get more. In any case, with all that said, I hope you have a pleasant day. See you next time. Goodbye.